Welcome to Shifting Gears, the show that catapults you back into the driver's seat of your life. Buckle up and prepare to check your mirrors as you shift from autopilot to the exhilarating journey of alignment with your host, Dana S. Diaz, the Power Shifter. Get ready to rev your engines and accelerate towards your true potential.
Welcome to Shifting Gears. I am Dana S. Diaz, your host, and I am very sparkly today because I absolutely love my guest, Megan Holly, who is a confidence coach and brand photographer who tells us to find the magic in every day. And I watch all of her social media posts where she finds prisms and reflections everywhere. And it's amazing what we miss when we're not paying attention. So I wanted to make sure to bring all my magic and all my sparkle today. So please welcome to the show, Megan Holly.
Hello.
There she is. And we wanted to record together today because we are somewhat local to each other, but unfortunately the weather is frightful, but my dear, we are so delightful. So welcome. We will be virtual today for everybody's safety and warmth and health and all the good stuff. But that will not stop us from bringing the energy and the light to everybody. So Megan, tell us a little bit about you and what you do, and just tell us everything about you.
Yeah, well, hello, everybody. And thank you, Dana, for having me here. I'm very excited to just be here in your world and connecting and all of the goodness. As Dana mentioned, I am a branding photographer and confidence coach. And what that means is that I always say I work with the human spirit, whether it's behind the camera, bringing someone to life visually, or working through things that are bringing them to their goals, their aspirations, their vision of where their brand or themselves are coming to life. And so that's kind of me in a nutshell. I'm also a dog fanatic. I love chasing sunbeams and rainbows, as Dana said. And to me, that's really kind of an important slice of life, because we can miss so much of the beauty in life and in business, honestly, if we don't kind of pull that to the forefront of our minds a little more often. So yeah, I work with creatives, helpers, healers, and all of that goodness to just find more magic in our lives and businesses.
And I love that. And what I truly love about it, as a matter of fact, we met at a women's empowerment event that you were speaking at. And I mean, immediately I was drawn to your shirt because everybody that knows me knows I'm a Taylor Swift, like, crazy person. And you were wearing a white button-up shirt with black, like, script, writing on it. And I was like, oh, Tortured Poets Department. I was just like immediately drawn to it. You're like, no, I just like put this together. But your outfit was amazing. But honestly, what it reminded me of, because you had this pink jacket with it with another print. And I was like, it just reminds me, talk about magic. You inspired me to be like 5-year-old Dana. And I think we lose that, because 5-year-old Dana would put on some crazy stuff and think she was something else. And I would walk out, I mean, my hair would be all nutty and crazy. I thought I would just doing pigtails and braids and, different barrettes and the socks, the shoes, the whatever, the little purse. But I walked out like I was something, like nobody could tell me anything. I thought I looked good, and we lose that, though. As we get older, we go to school, we get picked on, people tell us what we should and shouldn't do. We can and can't do that. And we try so hard to conform that we lose that creativity and our self-expression. And in all that, we lose our confidence. And that's part of why I did all this today. I mean, it is somewhat matching, but I was like, who cares? I'm sitting at home. It's supposed to be like less than 30 degrees outside, in the next few days. So I'm like, screw it. I'm going to walk around like a damn princess today. My godmother gifted me this beautiful necklace that I was like, where am I going to wear that? Well, if you know me too, I love hearts, and all these little dangly things are little hearts. And so I'm like, no, I'm going to be 5 again today, and maybe every day. And God love it. We should all be 5 again, wear what we want, do what we want. But the thing is about the confidence, and I want to bring this up because at the Women's Empowerment event that we met at, which, by the way, is Glow which is put on by Janelle Carter. If you don't know her, go follow her, go find her. She's amazing and a whole other vibe in herself. But she had a photographer there, another photographer that took everybody's picture. And, you know, me, I'm just a weirdo and I'm like, yeah, you know, making all kinds of little fun moves and dancing around. And he's like, would you stay still? I thought I was like getting my high school yearbook photo again where I had to like pose. So I finally stopped and just smiled and he took the picture. But what made me sad, and I don't know what your experience was with this, but when he brought everybody's pictures out in frames later, he said, you know, come and get them. And, you know, this should be a reminder of, you know, just you smiling and being happy and who you are, being your authentic self. And there were so many women there, including one that I was with that was like, oh my God, I don't want anyone to see my picture. I hate how I look and all this stuff. And I was like, we are so hard on ourselves, but it makes me sad when other women really believe that about themselves. So, I mean, I have my picture right here, and I mean, it's not. I mean, look at me. It's like my twin. Yeah, I finally stood still for him, which was a feat in itself for somebody to get me to stay still. You know, good job. But what would you say to somebody that was there, speaking to the women that might also resonate with that, the I don't want my picture taken women, the oh, I don't like how I look women? What would you say to build their confidence?
Yeah. And, you know, it is something that I hear more times than probably I hear my name. Like when I first meet somebody, you know, like, hey, Megan is not the first thing that somebody says. It's, I take awful photos, or I never like a photo of myself, or, you know, this, whatever, some variation of that statement. And honestly, you know, it's heartbreaking. And it's why I'm so passionate about the work that I do, is because although I cannot switch it off immediately in your brain, it takes a little bit of work. It takes a little bit of, right, kind of stepping into yourself differently. What I can do is start kind of the conversation of how can we reframe that for ourselves, right? What has society told us that we think we should look like in a photo? Let's start there, right? You know, what are we thinking that is missing from us, or we're lacking, that we're going to pull that apart? The other thing is too, it's the mind kind of, I call it the mind gremlin. And I named mine, you know, I call her Regina. Like, what is she saying? You know, and what is she saying to you? And how true is it? Or is it a story? You talked about being like the 5-year-old version of ourselves. What have we heard on our journey that has made us think like that? Because 5-year-old self would walk out of the house wearing what we felt good in. And it might not have been society standards, but we felt good. And that's all that matters at the end of the day, is how we feel, how, you know, our energy is moving about when we put ourselves in front of the camera, or go to that meeting, or whatever it might be, or honestly, just sitting at home. Like, we live in the era where so many people work from home or work virtually, that we don't even care kind of the energy we put to ourselves. I love that you were like, you know, I'm just putting this all on and you're not leaving the house, right? But like, I've worn my sparkly boots that I love just on a random Tuesday to come sit on my computer and edit, because it makes me feel good. So what I would say to people out there who are thinking, you know, does it really matter how I treat myself when I'm, you know, getting up to go work at the computer? Does it really matter that I say these things about myself, that I don't believe that I'm worthy of being in front of the camera, the this, the that, whatever? It does matter. And it does change how you step into the world. It changes our abundance. I believe it changes our relationships with people, because when we're showing up a little more mousy, or kind of a lowered version of ourselves because of the things we're saying or how we're acting even, we are kind of missing some of the beauty in our conversations that we might be having differently. Everybody deserves to be in front of the world in the way that feels the best for them. And I don't want to just bring it just to the camera, because some people might not have that need or necessity to be, you know, oh, well, you know, I don't take photos, but if you're feeling like that in general in life, there's some things that we can kind of rewire to think differently, because we all have magic within us. We are all beautiful humans, and there's no there's no question about it. It's just what you believe to be true.
I absolutely agree with that. That's actually part of my signature talk, is what we believe, not just about ourselves, but about others. But it's so astounding to me, the neuroscience behind that, that it has been proven that hearing something just 2 to 7 times can cause your brain to begin to believe that that is a truth. And
Yes.
what's worse is when those thoughts are in your own head. Maybe somebody has said them to you, or you've heard something said about you, which has been the case over and over it's literally the story of my life, being told who I am or who I should be. And I think a lot of women can relate to that. But the replay loop that goes on in my mind, I used to make the mixtapes back in the 80s, but this other stuff that plays in my head is not so much fun like that. I'm not hearing girls just want to have fun. I'm hearing, you're not skinny enough, you're not pretty enough, nobody loves you, you're not good at it, all this stuff. Who do you think you are? And it's so astounding to me that, in my life, it came from abusive people and situations, but it took me 40 some years to realize I was abusing myself by perpetuating those thoughts in my mind. And they can be rewired and reprogrammed, as I say, but it is so hard. But it's funny that even just a couple of years ago, I was still holding back, and I still do a little bit. Admittedly, I'm still a work in progress. We all are, but now I'm just like, yeah, I can look in the mirror and be like, girl, you look good today. Like, like you're rocking that, and there are times where I don't feel right. Like, I think we all can put on an outfit and be like, yeah, this just I don't feel good in it. Then change.
Right.
Wear what you want to wear, like do what you want to do, wear the necklace, wear the earrings, do the hair, whatever, put on lipstick just to vacuum, wear the heels, whatever you got to do. But if it feels good to you, that feel good stuff inside will come out in your personality, and you will be able to give yourself to the world, the best self. But like me, I'm assuming there was a time when Megan wasn't so confident. So tell us a little bit about what that looked like for you. Who were you before you became Megan, the confidence coach?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And it stems way back to that little version of myself, really, to kind of set the stage for what that looked like. Is I was a very, and still am to some extent, a shy, more kind of like, in kind of intro, I wouldn't say introvert, but kind of I just really stay kind of to myself when I'm kind of, initially kind of out in the world, right? If that makes sense. Yeah. And so, but it's different now. My shyness looks different now than it did when I was younger. I was a very shy, quiet, painfully quiet. Actually, ironically, I have from back in the day sitting next to me a bunch of progress reports from like grade school, middle school, because I'm going to use them for something soon. But every single teacher on here was like, she's painfully shy. She's so quiet. We wish she would speak up. We wish she would raise her hand, all of that. And if that doesn't say exactly what the world was perceiving me as, I don't know what does, because that was it. I was scared of the world. I was very highly anxious child as well. Anxiety has been a large part of my story, dealing with kind of, specifically medical anxiety, but also just scared of just the world really in general. And so mix in all these different things, being shy, having anxiety, and then also kind of growing up, in the 80s and 90s, it's one of those things where the communication was so different back then. It was just a time and a place. Like we didn't get the chance to articulate ourselves always in the way that was best. And if we did, it often was taken out of context. So I was also told like that I was just being so dramatic sometimes. And so, this and so that, and like, oh gosh, here she is being like dramatic again. So if I was expressing a big feeling, it was then told, well, that's just too much. Like you're fine kind of essence. And it wasn't that the people around me were bad people. They were my family, and I still love them and to this day, but there was just what they knew and how they knew how to react to the way that I was presenting. And so, all of that made me just kind of keep crunching and crunching and crunching down to be like, well, I just won't say anything. I'll just suffer in silence. I will be anxious and feeling like I'm, literally losing my mind, but I'm not going to tell anybody because then that's dramatic.
Right.
And, I'll just be fine. And I always was, but it wasn't healthy to keep that all in. And so now, as I went on to, middle school and high school and college, I would kind of shed some of the layers, but they were still not quite, all the way off. It was like when you peel the onion, but it's like still stuck at the bottom. It's like kind of hanging on, like flapping along with me. And I'm like, ooh, and it really wasn't until about 9 to 10 years ago when I started really kind of doing the work purposely and being more intentional about what is it that I really want out of my life? Because at the end of the day, that we can only, you could have all the coaching and all the support and all the things in the world, but you really have to want a shift for yourself. You need to want to really shift that gear, change where you're going. And I was sick of feeling scared of everything. I didn't want to make phone calls. I didn't want to go to the grocery store. And although sometimes on like harder days or maybe harder seasons, I might feel a little bit more like, oh, like the things can feel hard. It's not where I live all the time, right? That's just normal human experiences to have hard days or hard moments or even a season, but it's not my mode of operation anymore, right? And so what happened, those 9-10 years ago was that I just became aware of like, this is no way for me to exist. And I can't go on feeling this heaviness in my body and in my mind. And more importantly, I don't want to get to like being, 95 years old and being like, all I did was feeling like I was suffering and just like climbing up a hill. Yes. I want there to be joy also. And I'm not like, if you look back at me as a young child, I was a joyful kid. It wasn't like I was just like Eeyore walking around always sad and like, lonely, but there was this level of like, I wasn't living to my fullest. Right. And so once I started peeling those pieces apart is now where you're seeing this version of me that's kind of going, well, I still deal with anxiety and things like that, but I have tools, I have resources, I have my voice to say, these are the things that I'm going to do to shift that differently, or I'm going to make part of my everyday life, like finding magic in little simple things, in a sunbeam coming in the window, or really candid, beautiful conversation with somebody. It can be that simple to find ourselves and find our voices again. And then now, I'm speaking on stages. This is something that I would never, ever in a million years, 10 years ago, told you I would be doing, right? Like when I first started doing some of this work, I would be like, oh, sure. Like I know I'll grow and I know I'll maybe feel more confident, but I never would have told you that I would be doing the stuff that I'm doing. I've traveled to different countries doing, projects and stuff with clients, and these things were not on my radar because all I could see was what was in front of me, and what was in front of me was a cobweb mess of all the stress and anxiety and staying small and saying, well, you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not this, you're not that. All the things that we all know at some point in life that might come in a different statement or a different belief, but they can really be detrimental. And so to me, it's a beautiful thing to be able to look back and say, took some stock into who you were and made something different out of it. Like you kind of mushed up the Play-Doh and kind of reformed what it is that you wanted to look, feel, and move about the cabin like.
Yeah, exactly. I always say it's like shaking up the Etch-a-Sketch and just starting over, like just saying, this is not working for me. I don't like how this is going. Like, let me just start over, because we forget that us 80s kids, we had do-overs. If you didn't like how playing house was going, let's have a do-over. If tag wasn't going well, do-over. Yes. And we gave ourselves those graces, but then we grow up and we feel like we have to meet some level of expectation or perfection, and we don't give ourselves the graces or the permission even to have do-overs. And so that's something that I say to myself all the time, just like do-over, like we're just gonna start over. We're gonna take that U-turn, left turn, whatever we got to do. We all get lost a little bit, we all get off track, but I love first of all, thank you for sharing all of that, because I think so many people can relate. And I think that is one of the points that you sort of brought up, was the generational aspect of it, because I talk about this all the time, that the different generations are brought up believing different things. And I know us Gen Xers, it was, we couldn't have feelings about anything. We just had to be tough and raise our, the joke is we were 30 at 10, we were 30 at 30, we're still 30, we're not 50, we're always 30 years old. But we could not have feelings. And for me, I know I was punished for having feelings, but in an abusive way, and that was a whole level of stuff that I have shared on other shows. But, the thing is, for me, school was where I could be me, where I didn't have to be shy and withdrawn, which is how I was at home, because I had to fly under the radar, because my facial expression, my tone, my words, everything could be misconstrued and lead to bad consequences for me. So at school, I was the kid that talked out of turn, disrupted class, was loud, laughed all the time. I was on a first name basis with the principal. Everyone liked me very much. I was always teacher's pet, but I never shut up. I know that's hard to believe. But it's lovely how life turns out that way. But it's interesting how life as an adult shut me up and silenced me. And I got to the point where I only started to come out of my shell again a few years ago, after getting out of my first marriage, which was also abusive. And it was kind of like, I call it dipping my toes in the water, just kind of testing out little bits of my personality with people to see if it felt safe. And if it felt safe, then I opened up a little more and opened up a little more. But other people, if it didn't feel good, if I wasn't getting, if I felt judgment or something, I would just pull back even further. I just shut down, closed myself off. And, interestingly, because I'm seeing my hands waving, there is somebody an author that I just had a chat with the other day, Jen Axe, AKS, and she wrote a book, The Body is Speaking. And one of the things she talks about in her TED Talk is that your hand gestures expand with the level of safety that you feel being authentic in somebody else's presence. So here I am doing this. So apparently I feel very safe with you, because it's funny. I told her, that's why I love neuroscience. People will know, if there's anyone watching that has ever seen me, I'm known for doing this. I don't feel safe around you. And I almost curl up. It's like me being in standing up fetal position. I'm not sure about you, but I don't feel good. I'm not going to talk to you. I'm just going to stand here and hold my heart close. But if I'm comfortable with you, then I'm, doing the stuff. And then being Dana. But not everybody gets that. And I think we are all that way to some extent. But it's when you are consciously aware of it, I think it's so cool, because it invites an opportunity. The next time I'm like this with somebody, I might say, okay, what is it? If I know this person, what was it about whatever cautioned me against them that really, triggered me, I guess, for lack of better words? Or, when you do feel safe with somebody, okay, what is it about this interaction or this person that's making me feel safe? Because I think we forget to have a relationship with ourselves. And when you can have that relationship with yourself and be aware of why you do what you do and what you feel, and let yourself have the feelings, even when they're not always nice or appropriate or, whatever, acceptable, so to speak, you can build a little more confidence and self-esteem, because you will build that trust of knowing, okay, this is why this person makes me feel like this, and this is why this person makes me feel like this, and that's me. That's my scientific jargon.
No, but I love it. And I think it's actually a very poignant thing to kind of tap into for anybody who might be listening, who is I really don't feel good in my own skin. I don't feel confident in whatever way you're kind of packaging it up for yourself. It is kind of two things came to mind for me. Is that one, it is taking that little bit of a moment to see how you are interacting with the world and how the world is interacting with you, right? And it's a good thing to kind of dive in, because you can see, you can have that moment for yourself of, well, why am I acting or feeling this way? Is it because I'm having a bad day? Am I tired? Or is that person really not a good fit for my self right now? There could be a lot of different reasons, but if we don't tap into it, we'll never know the answer. It might be that you maybe had a different perspective of what they were like, and then when you were kind of finally in their energy, you were like, ooh, it's different. And I'm kind of like, your body knows best, the body knows. And so you're like, ooh, so maybe your first instinct was different than the reality of that. So then you can then make better choices for yourself. Well, okay, there's somebody who I have to have in my life in some regard because maybe they're a coworker or whatever, but how do I safeguard myself but feel my most confident when I'm interacting with them regardless, right? Or if it's somebody you can create a bigger boundary with, whatever it is, at the end of the day, it's helping you support yourself in being your best version, no matter what, who, where you are. The other side of it that popped up for me when you said that was perspective. Perspective of your own perspective of yourself. Because for so long, right, we lead. We put our hand out. We're like, hi, I'm Megan and I have anxiety. And we lead with these things that aren't necessarily supportive for us in the bigger picture. It's not to say that we take out the hard parts or the things of our personalities or our lives that are like heavier or harder, but we do have to figure out how is our perspective of ourselves and how are we kind of moving it into the world, into the conversations. Not like you said with the hand gestures, that everybody, maybe is worthy of knowing every intricate part of your story so that you can safeguard yourself in that. Also, it's hard when we're on this like kind of repeat hamster wheel of saying the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So how are we, right, like putting ourselves out into the world? The other flip side of it is, which I think is actually very important to take a look at, is other people's perceptions of us.
Yes.
Because that can make us play small because we're worried about what they're going to think, what they're going to feel, how they're going to react, what they're going to say to us. Going back to people saying things in our youth or yesterday, really, of things that really tear us down or make us feel uncomfortable or less than, we will play small 100% if we're worried about what people's perceptions of us are. And perception and reality are two different things. So somebody's perception of, this is an example that I use often. I have, a social media community where I am very active in. It's very loud, it's very boisterous, but it's also grounded and calm in the same sense. But I had somebody once in my world say to me, oh, I have so-and-so friend who just started following you and she loves what you're doing, but she just feels like overwhelmed. And I thought, okay, I had to like really do the work in my brain. Like, what does that mean? The last thing I want somebody to feel is overwhelmed in my presence. And she could see my gears going because I was like, oh no, like I had this feeling of, I've let somebody down. I've made them feel some sort of way that isn't good in my perspective. And then she goes, she's kind of stopped and she paused. She goes, that's a good thing. She goes, if you knew this person, because she didn't tell me who it was. I didn't know who, I did still to this day don't know who it was. And that's okay. She was like, this person is doing a lot of work of being more comfortable in their own skin. And I think they see and perceive you as being fully comfortable, fully in yourself, standing in your truth. And it makes them kind of go, oh, I'm not there yet. I don't know how to be there. And I don't know what to do with that. So I'm going to like feel some sort of way about it, which I find vastly interesting because we all are doing it. We see somebody on, social media. We walk by somebody in the grocery store. We're making kind of snap perceptions, not even snap judgments, snap perceptions of what we think given the context. And so I use that example to kind of remind people that like people are going to perceive us in all different ways, shapes, or forms. Some may be on the nose, some may be totally misconstrued because of their own thoughts and their own spaces. So we can't let that affect how we show up, right? And then the other side of that is like having better conversations then, right? How can we have better conversations if there is miscommunication or we're not feeling like we can be ourselves in front of somebody who we deep down want to? What kind of conversation needs to come out of that so that you can create something for yourself, a space for yourself in that relationship or existence, that, you know, you can move through it in a more confident way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it all makes perfect sense to me. And I could not agree with you more on perception. It's actually something that I have dealt with even within the last few days, of somebody taking a pop cultural reference that I made to describe a physical attribute on somebody to be offensive. And I was like, but it wasn't meant to be offensive, because if you look at it from my point of, I mean, I'll just be, it was referring to somebody as having a Kim Kardashian, you know, booty.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if anybody knew me, I mean, I love my husband. I love men. That is my preference. But I mean, I will check out a booty on any woman, and they're beautiful. And
Yeah.
but you have to look at my perception of a few years ago. I was still very sickly and 93 pounds, and I have no butt. And I do lots of squats to try to have a butt, because my husband's a butt guy. So
Yeah.
in my mind, I'm like, I was complimenting you, but that person, oh, I was destroyed. That who am I to be in the field of women's empowerment and all that, to shame women's bodies? I'm like, I wasn't shaming anybody. And if I did, it wasn't my intention, but that just goes to show. But the thing is, a couple years ago, old Dana, unhealed Dana would have, I would have been in bed crying for days on that. I might have gone through my suicidal ideation and the whole thing, feeling like, oh my gosh, people think this awful thing of me. But I have to stop and take a breath and just say, okay, I know my truth.
Yes.
She does not know me in that way well enough to know that this was made, as a compliment more than anything.
Right.
And even if it wasn't, even if I was being an a-hole that day, because we all have our days, that was not the case. But I'm like, even if, worst case, I am human. I screw up. I say things, but I will own up to it. But my thing is, if somebody else takes something to mean something, this is my big takeaway. If you make it mean something about you, that's an insecurity inside yourself. And again, look at it as an invitation to say, what is it? Do I, am I self-conscious about how big my butt is or how not big my butt is? I mean, obviously I am. I'm trying to get some. I mean, people pay and have surgeries to get what I'm trying to get with squats. But some people may have that attribute and not feel good about it. But, we are all so quick, like you said, to make perceptions, but a lot of people are very quick to make judgments too, because they just want to put that, like, kind of project the shame onto other people instead of having to face it themselves. Right. But one other thing you said too, and this is, back to I can't get away from the generational thing, but what people think, because I think that's the number one thing, in my opinion, that prevents us from having any kind of self-esteem or confidence. Yeah. But particularly somewhere in the older Gen X and up to baby boomers and older, it's all about what people will think. Oh my gosh, I can't, because people will think, what people will think. There was actually, again, at that event, there was somebody who is of the baby boomer generation that actually came up to me and said, how can you be so confident and so, like, outgoing? And I'm like, it's just who I am. This is me. Like, I don't feel like I have to hide myself. If somebody doesn't like me, I'm okay with that. It took a long time and a lot of therapy, a lot of money to get to that point. A lot of work. And it's a daily, I mean, I don't think anyone's like, oh, I'm healed, but, it's a daily effort to remind yourself that, you're okay. It's okay to be you. We are all different. And that's the beauty of this world. Not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody's going to love you. So maybe some people do, some people don't, but you have to be okay with that, because if you're trying to get everybody's approval, good luck. Good luck.
It's very true. And I feel like it's like using that example of the Kim Kardashian booty and all that, like, it's so true, because like people who are not like healed or comfortable in themselves are going to take that probably way more different than somebody who's like oh, like I totally like, even if they don't understand exactly what you meant, they're not going to take it offensively.
Right.
I'm short, but I have a big wide butt, and I say that not as a rip down, not as a demeaning way. That is my truth. That is what my butt is and how it is. And it's not bad. It's not good. It just is it.
It's
Right?
just is. Yeah.
And when you said that, it resonated with me majorly, because there's been times when, like in like photo sessions, for instance, once my camera's up in my eye, sometimes it's like the world doesn't exist except for what like I'm focusing on, and I'll bump into something with my butt, and I'll say, "Oh, my big butt just ran into that," not meaning it in a mean way towards myself. Oh, you don't have a big butt. And like people immediately will go into like first aid mode, and I'm like, but that's not. I'm not saying it in a mean way. I'm just saying, like, literally, my butt runs into stuff. It's really just true, and I'm not mad about it. It's okay. Like, I am very comfortable with my skin, overall, right? Like, and if there is something that I want to shift or change, like doing squats or being stronger or whatever, that's a different story. But like, we need to be more. I kind of almost do it on purpose now and say stuff like that, so that people can almost see it's okay to exist in your reality, and it's okay to own it. Like, and I also am the big believer that it's okay to like love something, but also want to shift it. Like, both are okay too. I think it's just about how we're treating ourselves over that situation, especially if there's a shifting. But why are we like, if that's your truth, why are we denying it? It's because we go back to those generational things, and it's like the silence over it all, the vanity that was so brought into it. When I was getting married, I wanted to be barefoot, to be first off. I wanted to have no shoes on for the ceremony part, because it was in the grass, it was outside, but my mom was so worried about what people would think. She's a boomer, love her, but she's a boomer. And there's a whole thing going on with that. And she was just so bent out of shape over what people would think. Now, here's the thing. My dress was A-line. It was tulle. It was huge. You could barely see my feet. I mean, people probably wouldn't even know I didn't have shoes on, but it was so drilled in her brain of what people would think. And I remember thinking to myself, this is such a poignant example of this situation. Now, I did end up wearing silver ballet shoes instead of being barefoot, but I was still bucking the system because I didn't want to do it traditionally. And I was like, I'm not going to let other people's worries and thoughts get in the way of how I want to show up on my own wedding day. But it would have been really easy to just be like, fine, I'll get the satin heels and and all of that, because we were worried about what people thought. But it's a great example of like, we hear that over and over again. If our parents, if our grandparents, if our people that we work with, if all these people are just in that generation, or our current generations, even our younger people, depending on where they're at with how they've been brought up and what they've heard, we're undoing that. And I do believe that Gen X, and I'm technically an older millennial, we have like a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do, and it's kind of like, woo, it can feel heavy in one breath, but kind of almost enlightening. Like, let's revolt and let's get everybody more comfortable with our own skin.
Yes.
Ourselves, with owning that. I've also had quite a journey with acne over the years. I have PCOS, which for many people can bring on really bad acne. And so thankfully I don't break out now. I do have some old scarring from it, but I don't have what I had in my 20s. But there was so many times when I was like, I want to hide real bad right now, because it was like the top of a conversation. People, I've tried Proactive. I tried this. It was nothing was off the table. I didn't even know people, and they'd be commenting on it. And it was at that time where I was just like, I just have to keep showing up for life, because it would be very easy for me to just hide under the table and be like, everybody sees it. I can't hide it. All the makeup in the world can only like sort of disguise it. But it was like, I didn't know it then. I almost didn't know until I was talking about it right now. But my choice to keep kind of being like, well, I'm going to still go out and have fun with my friends. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that, was just like a revolution against the norm, right? And it was like this medical condition that I had to get situated taught me that like people who love me still love me. People who, so if, again, kind of using that as an example for anybody who's like, yeah, well, I've got all these wrinkles, or yeah, I've got, oh, my hair is turning gray, or oh, I've always dealt with, this, that, or the other. So what? It's one of those things where we have to do what is best for us and still live a life that feels good. And it's not easy. It's not easy. It's a
No,
choice
it's not.
every single day. It's a choice
Yeah.
every single day to say, am I going to let the mirror or the gremlin in my mind or my
Mhm.
whoever be the in the driver's seat, or am I in the driver's seat? You always are in the driver's seat because you are home, you are homeostasis, you are the driver. But sometimes we get in the Uber, sometimes we get in the Uber.
No, and we all want the Uber sometimes. We want the easy button. We want somebody to take us there. But I think that's a very relevant point. I'm a big dreamer. I'm a dream analysis junkie, so I could analyze anybody's dreams and tell you what's going on. But that is a big one that comes up when people have dreams where they are either in the driver's seat, passenger seat, back seat, because I feel like, and that's kind of part of my gimmick, because I feel like so many people are sitting somewhere other than in the driver's seat of their own life. But it is a choice. It is a choice to be passive about your life. It is a choice to let other people drive what you do and what you wear and what you say and how you act and all this stuff. But look at our country, look at this world. How many people, the high incidence of depression and anxiety, and not just that, but the suppression of feelings, which goes back to the generational thing, because those baby boomers love to suppress feelings, right? Yeah. And how does that manifest? In physical illness, in autoimmunity, in cancer, inflammations, all kinds of diseases. They all come from suppressing the feelings. And it's something I'm obviously very passionate about. But I think it's really important for people to learn to be comfortable, not just with, we kind of went off on a thing there about our physical bodies, which let me just remind any woman that's resonating, my advice is I call it soul skin. Some people have nicer soul skin than others. Some people look like this, that, and whatever. We're all different. Who cares? I look at it like a house. Sometimes my house is a damn mess. And sometimes I can make it look really, really pretty. You deal with what you got. It might need a new roof. It might need a new this or that. You might get new furniture. But it is what it is. But who you are in here, that's what matters. And the people that are looking at this to judge you based on your external and outward appearance, I would question whether those are really your people. My people will see me inside. I mean, even all these dating shows, I remember many years ago when The Bachelor and all these other shows were coming out. I said, I would love a show where people had no idea what the other person looked like. They only communicated and fell in love that way and decided who they were going to be with that way. Didn't matter what age, even take gender out of it, unless there was a strong feeling towards one gender or another. But why can't we just relate as human beings? And then Love is Blind came out, and then it was created. And it was very entertaining. Not quite how I would have done it, but it is entertaining. But how many of those people on the show fall in love, then they finally meet face to face, and everything changes because they're judging the physical appearance. And it breaks my heart that people are so concerned, and because people are concerned and perceive us in a certain way because of how we look, then we start doing it to ourselves. I suffered with an eating disorder most of my life where I was actually tying it to my worth. And I'm even saying, even currently in the last year, I've worked very hard to undo that. But, admittedly, it was something that constantly came up with my husband. I thought he wouldn't love me if I gained weight, became a healthy weight. And I am a healthy weight now, and I'm glad for it. And I am healthier, but I was afraid I would lose his love. And how sad is that? Even me, who works in this field, I was struggling with this. But we need to remember that we got to take care of ourselves in here. My great grandma told me when I was a little girl that, when I would go to her with all my little issues and even the abuse that was happening in my house, she would say, at the end of your life, all you have is you. So you have to be your best friend. You have to take care of you. And so, you said Regina in your mind, and I just call it the a-hole in my brain, but sometimes I tell that a-hole to shut the F up. I'm sorry. I won't I won't
No.
offend anyone with my language, but that's how I talk to that a-hole.
Yeah.
And I feel like, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that because it's not true. And sometimes we have to kind of remind ourselves of what is true and what is real, or even just what matters. Because,
Yes.
it usually, my husband and I were just talking about this morning. Usually it takes somebody passing away for you to have that, that momentary epiphany of, oh, you never know when it's all going to end. Why am I wasting my time worrying about this? And all the things that don't matter at all, when the things that do matter, we just completely miss.
Well, and I think it goes back to, like you said, we kind of took it into a physical space, because I think more than not, most people can identify something within themselves that's relatable to that. But really it goes back to just like our energy and our, like the thoughts that we have and the table. And so we all know and love those people who are not society's standards of beauty or whatever, but you love them, like you love them. That's all that matters in life, right?
Yeah.
There's been, comedians and people who have just done the thing, and they are by no means what people expect them to be from a physical standpoint, which I don't even know how to articulate that without saying that there is no standard. We have become to believe that there is one. But what I'm getting at is that what we love about them is that what they bring to the table, their personality, their energy, their love of people, their creativity, their whatever. And if you can drive and dial down into that being your superpower, the rest, I truly believe happier people do look more like effervescent and beautiful and whatever, because you are truly more connected to who you are at the core. So it's almost like it goes hand in hand, right? If we are tapping into, the things that we love and letting that energy do that work to let that energized version of ourselves show up, we're going to feel like a better version of ourselves. We are going to project into the world. We are going to attract people into our lives that feel really good, and vice versa. They're going to feel really good around you, and you're going to be talking with all the hands because you're like, I feel really good with these people because I'm being really good to myself.
Yes.
And I'm really unleashing what that means. So if that means to me, like, that means that I don't care that somebody might be like a pink couch. Like, it is who I am and what I am to my core. We've lived in the land of farmhouse beige for way too long. And so, if a pink couch might not be for everybody, but for whoever it is, let's do it. Right. Like, all the things. And it's kind of waking up every day and being like, what am I really called to doing, saying, being, and making small choices towards it every single day. And that could be as simple as, the decor around you. It could be as simple as the choices and the wording that you use in the emails at work. I used to be very matter of fact, I'm a very flowery person when it comes to when I use words and stuff, but in my old life before my business, I would be very da, 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 and it was just blah, blah, and now I'm like, people feel more connected to me because I speak in the way that I actually feel it is me. And the conversations that come out of it, the confidence that comes out of it on both sides of the interaction is amazing. So I guess if nothing else today, if people are feeling really lackluster in their confidence and just in kind of the way they're existing right now, that's where to start. Start small. It's not like tomorrow you're going to wake up and be the most confident version of yourselves, but by next week, by just making some real small little intentional choices, you might go, hey, you know what? I'm feeling pretty good in my skin today. Like you said, it's a roller coaster. Even us who are doing this work daily, doing work with other people to help them also do it. It is not a, one size fits all. It is not a easy button, like in that commercial, Staples or whatever it is, easy button. It's not that, but it is, it can feel more with ease if you just keep it more for the forefront of your daily mind.
I agree with you. I mean, for me, in my life experience in the last few years of my healing, I feel like the confidence has come from embracing and accepting myself as who I am and where that started. I mean, when you're talking about the little things, and I think this is why, part of why I love you is because when you got on stage to speak, you had music and you were dancing. And I mean, anybody that knows even the slightest thing about me, like music and dancing are my thing. Like, so I go back to that little stuff. Like when I got out of my first marriage, it was like, okay, what do I want? Maybe not in 5 years, but what do I want right now? Oh, it's dinner time. I want a pint of ice cream. Oh, but it's dinner. I should have actual food. Well, screw that. I want a pint of ice cream. It's these little things, like I always say, fill your heart with joy. What's going to bring happiness to you?
Yeah.
For you, and by the way, the pink couch is looking fantastic. That is so my vibe. I love that. And this is why I love you. But that's the thing. I look at your Instagram posts and everything, and all the prisms, you find like the reflection of rainbows and light and different colors on your walls and in different places. And you have little things and your crystals and your plants. And that's the thing. Those tiny, tiny, tiny little things in life, they just immediately spark something in you. They ignite something in you. But we lose sight of that in all these, yes, the boring beige and gray. I can't stand the gray and white stuff that's going on in houses right now. It drives me crazy because I'm more of a Crayola crayon box kind of a girl. But I love sparkles, and I love, like, my office is pink. I asked my husband, I said, this is a very manly house. Can I have one pink room? And he didn't even blink an eye. He knows I love pink. So
Yeah.
I have my pink room, and everything in here is some shade of pink or red. And I love hearts. And, my son did this heart for me on the wall when he was like 7. I mean, not at 22, he would have made it look a little better, but, but I love it. But that's the thing. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to be who we are. And if who we are means, like my cons that have Swarovski crystals shaped like Hello Kitty, because I like Hello Kitty.
Yeah.
Well, it makes me happy. And people say, oh, at your age, you shouldn't be wearing those. To me, age is a number of sunsets. Like, I don't care. It makes me happy, and I want to fill my heart with joy. When I die, I'm going to die knowing that I lived my life. Every breath, I took that opportunity to, like you said, make the choice to feel happy, to find the joy. And
Yeah.
I have lived so much suffering and endured so much crap in my life. I just don't want to do it anymore. And yes, when I get sick or perimenopausal or, stuff, I don't always have the effort, but when I do, I try really hard, because why? Why suffer?
You have those days. There are days when you could ask my husband, when I am growly and rolling around and I'm like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to get up. This is, the day's already crap, whatever it is in my brain. We're human. And I think that's what's really important, because especially for me, because people do see the colors and the this and the jewelry and whatever, I don't want it ever to get misconstrued that's just that's the baseline, and that's where it's always at. And that's where we're like, roll me up from here, baby. Because it's not the case. Sometimes it divots, here's our line, and sometimes it's down here. But the thing is, if I am doing that and I can't remind myself of it, it just takes either him reminding me or me getting up and being like, okay, what am I going to find in my proximity? Or what am I going to do to shift that? And for me, it does come down to like the joy of music and movement. And there are days when I absolutely do not want to move my body. I want to just be like, nope, everything hurts. I can feel all the, every vertebrae in my spine right now. I'm not doing it, because that's the thing that we'll keep telling ourselves, right? Like, I'm tired, I'm old, I'm this, I'm that, whatever wording we're putting with it. But that's only like because we're allowing that to be our truth. Mm-hmm. We see and we know science backs it, that music and movement, even if it's subtle, even if you can't get up and like, run around and dance like a crazy person, you just shift your hips back and forth? Can you bob your head? Can you just get a little bit of that stagnancy that we hold on to, those hardships and those emotions and that just like feeling of heaviness? Can we do that? Yes, we can. And it might look different for everybody, and it will look different for everybody. But for me, it's like that. When I'm laying there and I don't want to do it, and I don't want to do life, or I don't want to do whatever tasks at hand, I look around and I go, okay, there's not any sun out today. So I'm not seeing as many rainbows or sunbeams today, but I could still look at, this plant next to me and be like, you know what? I'm so grateful that there is life in this world and that we have vegetables that we can eat to, serve our body. Like, it's just those little tiny, like, train of thought, like, shifts that matter. Or I'm going to go put on my favorite song in the whole world and I'm going to listen to it. And for those 3 minutes, that's all I'm going to think about. I'm not going to think about the dread or the this or the that is trying to take over my mind right now. And, it even if it's a 1% shift, it's a 1% shift. And that's all that matters.
I completely agree. I had just recently made a reel that basically just saying you have the option at every turn, you have the option to create or critique.
Yeah.
Not just others, but yourself. So do you want to create in that moment something positive and joyful and uplifting and supportive and all the good stuff? Or do you want to diminish and destroy? And I mean, I don't know. We all fall into that. We all, self-sabotage for some reason at some point. But if you can make the conscious effort to say, no, I'm not doing this. Like, right before we came on, I had Opalite playing by T Swift because it is dreary and awful loud. And I'm like, no, we got to get Happy Dana back. I know it's an amazing song. What is your go-to song? You like to post dancing every day. You dance to something. What's your favorite song to dance to?
Oh goodness, that's really hard to answer because I love so many genres and so many eras and all the things. For me, I do love I can't remember the artist that it's like a newer rendition of Dancing in the Moonlight. And it's like, kind of got like a little bit of a remix vibe to it.
Okay.
And I just love it because one of the lines is in that song is like, I can't remember exactly the wording. I'm going to forget it now, but like, keep it loose to keep it light. Keep it loose to keep it light.
Yes.
And
that's
it's like
a
a
good one.
reminder when I'm doing my thing. That is something that I urge my community to do is this one song a day with intention, put it on and move it. And that lyric in there is so right because if we keep it a little more loose, we keep it a little bit more light. So I'll have to pick that song right now. It's kind of like it goes on more than it doesn't, kind of a thing. But yeah, and it shifts so much in me. I feel like I can breathe better. I think I can like on days when I'm just like focusing too much on something in front of me and it's not working or I'm feeling frustrated. The last thing I want to do is walk away from it. But when I do, the answers come quicker. I can speak more fluently, all the things. So it's a beautiful thing. We have that. And all it takes is literally a song in our bodies to just tap our toe or something.
I agree. My grandma's 85 and she'll just sit and do her thing. We like to move. Us Latina girls, we like to move and groove. So, hey, we only have 2 minutes left here. So let's get people to connect with you. So if somebody wanted to find you, where can they find you? Tell us a little bit about what you can offer where, and we'll close out.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much. My handle on pretty much any social media is Megan Holly Creates. And the places where I spend the most time are Instagram and Facebook. So those two places are where you'll see the most consistent content and all that good stuff. But I'm also on YouTube where you'll find my podcast episodes as well as other short form as well. So those are kind of the three places. Again, it's Megan Holly Creates. There you're going to find, reminders to find the magic in your everyday life. We're going to find that reminder to dance. We're going to find other content that uplifts. In the new year, I've got a lot of fun things. Confidence hotline coming in strong. So basically, if you are looking for, especially into the new year, for some place to go to just feel good and a little bit more seen and light and confident, then I would love to have you just hang out with me on my socials.
Amazing. And yes, I'm always on your Instagram, your stories. I always see you smiling and dancing and showing us crystals and prisms and all things that lead to happiness. So I encourage everybody to check Megan out at Megan Holly Creates on all social media, but I prefer personally Instagram as well. So that wraps it up for today. Thank you all so much for joining us. And thank you, Megan, for joining me. We will definitely have to try to do this live at some point again where we can share a dance. That was my plan. I will have Opalite playing for both of us. But thank you to everybody for joining us. Please go to Megan Holly Creates. follow her, like her stuff. I promise you will not be disappointed. And don't forget to check me out as well, danasdiaz.com, where I do have level 1 basic tier 1 shifting gears, the course finally available. It's just an opening to get you back on track, get your mind thinking in the right direction. So watch for that. And join us in 2 weeks when we have a follow-up. It'll be my shop talk on today's episode. And until then, be amazing and have a beautiful day. Mwah.
Thanks for tuning into Shifting Gears, where transformation isn't just talk, it's a conscious shift into the best and happiest version of you. Until next time, enjoy the open road. And if today's episode inspired you, be sure to like, share, and follow so you never miss what's coming next.